In this episode, we delve into the tragic story of José María Coni and Marina Menegazzo, two Argentine tourists whose dream adventure turned into a nightmare, leading to one of the most complex investigations ever undertaken on this continent. María José Coni and Marina Menegazzo, two Argentine students from the city of Mendoza, decided to take a break from their studies and go on an exciting trip. At the time, María José was 22 years old and studying economics at the University of Cuyo, while Marina, a 21-year-old girl, was studying speech therapy at the University of Aconcagua. Both also actively volunteered for charities helping the homeless. Their close friends said that they were always cheerful, energetic girls and were always close to their families. On January 10, 2016, María José and Marina Menegazzo and two friends went backpacking in Ecuador and Peru. Judging by their social media accounts, everything was going well. They looked very happy and showed off the places they visited in each country. On February 13, 2016, after being together for just over a month, the group split into two parts. Marina and María José stayed in Ecuador for a few days, while the other two went to Mendoza. María José and Marina still had a few days left before the start of classes, and they decided to spend them in Ecuador and get to know new places. The girls decided to go to the beach in the town of Montañita. It was one of the first places they visited when they arrived in Ecuador. The heavenly beaches and festive atmosphere attracted them again. Many people from different countries vacation in Montañita, many of them tourists with backpacks like Marina and María José. To save some money and maintain their budget, these girls sold fruit salads and hamburgers on the beach. Throughout the day, the girls continued to post photos on social networks. The girls seemed to be having fun, swimming on the beach and looking very happy. In the early morning of the 22nd, María José and Marina Menegazzo packed their things and told their parents that they would hitchhike from Montañita to Guayaquil that afternoon. They also warned them that they would have no service for the next few days, so it would be very difficult to get through. Shortly after noon on February 22nd, all contact was lost. Girls were expected to arrive at their home in Argentina on February 26th, but this did not happen. They never arrived. On February 27th, the family already began to worry. Marina's sister was the first to sound the alarm on social networks. She posted a photo of the two girls with the following phrase: "My sister and her friend disappeared on Monday the 22nd in Montañita, Ecuador. Please share." Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa responded a few hours later with the following message: "The police are already investigating. Hug your parents and María José's parents. All of Ecuador is with you." It all ended on February 25th. It was Thursday, and María José's body was found 200 meters from the beach. Then, on Sunday 28th February, Marina's body was discovered 40 meters from where María José's body was found. This is where the strangeness of this case begins. For example, why were the bodies found 3 days later when they were separated by only 40 meters? Autopsies had to be performed to determine the dates of the girls' deaths. Both girls were wrapped in bags and tied with rope. María José suffered a contusion to her skull, wounds all over her body including her genitals, a broken hip, and several bruises and scratches. Marina received 6 wounds with a sharp object. The wounds were inflicted from the chin to the first cervical vertebra, and she had abrasions on her face and throughout her body. In addition, the girls had wounds on their wrists, which suggests they were tied up. They both reportedly died on the same day, within hours or minutes of each other. The date of death was determined to be the early morning of February 23rd. A day after the discovery of the second body, Ecuadorian police announced at a press conference that the first arrests had already been made in the case. 2 people were arrested. The first was Alberto Segundo Minaponce, and the second was Aurelio Eduardo Rodriguez, nicknamed El Rojo. Blood was found in the house of one of the accused, and Marina's mobile phone and backpack were found near the house. Apart from the quick arrest, the most shocking thing is that the two immediately confessed to their crime. The men told the whole story. They saw María José and Marina Menegazzo outside a bar, and the girls tried to find a car that would take them to Guayaquil, but could not find anyone going in that direction. The first person to approach them was El Rojo. The girls began to tell where they came from and what they were doing and said that they had been robbed in the morning, they had no money, and they had nowhere to stay. El Rojo suggested that they stay at Mina Ponce's house, which was relatively close. El Rojo then took them in a taxi to the man's house. When they arrived, it was around 8:30 p.m. The man allegedly left the girls at home, locked the door, then returned to the bar and stayed there for several hours with Mina Ponce. When he returned to the house around 2 a.m., the situation became tense, according to the two men. According to the men, they were very drunk and wanted to have sexual intercourse with the girls, which they clearly did not want to do. Maria José and Marina Menegazzo did not drink, so they began to resist. Allegedly, Maria José was the first to die. Mina Ponce admitted that he killed her with a metal object that he had at home, hitting her on the head when she resisted sexual intercourse. Realizing that Maria José was no longer alive, he heard a scream from the next room. It was Marina's scream. Mina Ponce said that he first threw away Maria José's body and then tried to get rid of Marina's body. It seemed very strange to the family that Maria and Marina accepted the help of these men. There are many Argentine tourists in Montañita, and it would be more logical for them to approach a man of their own nationality, tell him what happened, and ask for help. Maria José and Marina Menegazzo had credit cards and could withdraw money at any time to pay for a night at one of the local hotels. This version began to crumble in the eyes of the public. The brother of one of the victims said that when Ecuadorian police took him to the crime scene in the house, he saw a used syringe lying on the floor. When he asked about the syringe, it magically disappeared. It was not even photographed at the crime scene, and the experts who examined the scene denied its existence. According to the family, the two men were just fronts for something bigger, such as a human trafficking business. Meanwhile, the investigation continued and a second autopsy and toxicology test were ordered. It also turned out that both defendants changed their versions of what happened several times. In one version, Mina Ponce stopped blaming El Rojo and himself for the murder and said that the girls were killed by a Venezuelan drug dealer living in the neighborhood. He was known only under the pseudonym El Chamo. He was detained by police but stated that he had nothing to do with the incident and agreed to take a lie detector test and a DNA test so that they would understand that he was not in the house at all. DNA from Mina Ponce, the two dead girls, and several unidentified DNA samples were found at the crime scene. These samples did not belong to El Rojo, the suspected second killer, nor to El Chamo, who was completely removed from the investigation after passing all DNA tests. After receiving the results of the second autopsy, the date of death changed. This was one of those moments that shocked everyone the most. While the date of death of Maria José remained February 23rd, the date of Marina's death changed to February 25th. This means that when Maria José's body was found, Marina was probably only days away from death. This also explains why Marina's body was not found on the same day that Maria José's body was found, despite the fact that they were only 40 meters away from each other. People came to the conclusion that this was a very strange situation and that perhaps Marina had been kidnapped, raped, and beaten during these 2 days. Ecuadorian police have actively argued that the reason Marina was not found was because of rain, but a check of weather data on the day Maria José was found showed that it had not rained. The toxicological analysis was even more surprising. The girls were under the influence of prohibited substances. A substance was discovered in their body that, when mixed with alcohol, forms a mixture that can deprive a person of his own will. Their relatives described them as very careful and responsible girls, so all this did not correspond to their character. Now, after a toxicological analysis, it can be argued that these men somehow pumped the girls with illegal substances. The trial was significantly delayed because the prosecutor was changed 3 times. However, in the end, Alberto Segundo Mina Ponce and Aurelio Eduardo Rodriguez were sentenced to 40 years in prison. However, the matter did not end there. After the trial and sentencing, the case was reopened. Let me remind you that there were several DNA samples in the house that have not yet been identified. 2 more arrests were made, but one of the accused was completely acquitted because the DNA test was negative and he also had a very strong alibi. Another person involved in this crime was brought to justice because his DNA tested positive. This man is named José Luis Perez. Maria José was found by a man who allegedly entered the area to relieve himself. The man identified as José Luis Perez. He had already testified as a witness in the trial against El Rojo and Mina Ponce, but now he had to sit in the dock. His defense was simple. He claimed that he had lived in the house a few weeks ago and the blood on the walls was the result of a tooth infection he had spat on the wall. The defense also stated that his DNA found on the girls' bodies was transferred from furniture and objects that he touched in the house, which were also touched by Maria and Marina. When the dentist came to testify, the man's defense began to crumble. José Luis Perez did come to see him, but it was 2 weeks after the murders were committed. José Luis Perez asked the dentist for a medical certificate confirming that he had a dental infection, but the doctor did not want to give him a certificate because he examined him and saw that he was fine. According to the man, José Luis Perez insisted, but he eventually kicked him out. At these words, the man's defense collapsed. Besides, it was too much of a coincidence that he found the body of the first girl. It was a very long trial, and José Luis Perez was not convicted until November 2019. We can say that the case is solved, but only half solved since there are still DNA samples that need to be identified. In addition, many questions still remain. What happened at night and in the early morning of February 23rd in this house? What happened to the girls? What happened to Marina in those 2 days when she was alive and Maria José was not? Were there other people there? How were they kidnapped? How were they captured? Was all this planned? All of these issues remain unresolved, and the families of the 2 girls continue to fight for justice in this case. Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so as not to miss new videos.